We don't need that. So originally, we were going to have several students from Case Western speak on projects that they're doing with Engineers Without Borders. And there was some staff changes and time conflicts, and plus, in retrospect, they were going to be Zooming in, and we're just as glad it's not happening today that way, because we weren't sure we were ready for that technologically. But hopefully they will be back here in a month or two. We'll try to get them to come in and talk about that. So, of course, when you're in charge of the programs for the month and something changes last minute, you pick the most obvious person that you can call right away. And so it's really Asad, Kahn, because he's going to talk some too. But I'm going to talk just a little bit about some mission experiences, mission trip experiences that I've had, and a little bit of what that's taught me about myself and the United States and the world and all those kind of things. And it really started when I was in high school, and my church took a group down to Merida, Mexico, and we were a Presbyterian church, and we stayed with a Presbyterian pastor down there and got to know some people there. And Merida is kind of across the Yucatan Peninsula from a little place called Cancun. Most of us have never heard of Merida. At the time, in 1977, nobody had heard of Cancun, okay? We went there for one day just to be on the white beach and got burned like crazy. And there was one street. It was huge. It had about 4 hotels. That's it. So Cancun's gotten a little bit bigger. But we began to learn a little bit about different languages, different ways of doing things, different expectations, and those kind of things. And I don't think I was aware of it at the time. At 17, I think I was. But I began to view myself a little bit differently as not being, just because I'm American doesn't mean that's normal, right? That's just being American. That's different than other places. So for a few years, and I'd gotten involved a little bit with World Vision, sponsored a couple kids, and did some projects on a college campus where I was working a few years ago. I was at Baldwin Wallace. And I got invited to go on a couple of trips with World Vision. One was in '86, and we went to Kenya and Ethiopia. And some of us will probably remember that there were some pretty massive droughts in Ethiopia. And we got to Ethiopia just about 3 weeks after they'd had some rain for the first time in about 3 years. Thanks, Asad. And just to also highlight a little bit of some generational differences between me and Asad, when he comes up to talk, he's got like pictures to put up here. You can see my pictures are all slides, and I don't even know where they are in the house right now. But I do have. It was fascinating in Ethiopia. One of the things I learned was they're having this famine, this drought, and through the whole drought, the rivers that were around there were full of catfish. Guess how many got eaten? None. Culturally, that's not something Ethiopians eat. That's like a forbidden, like non-kosher almost, right? So, and we're kind of like, in the world, like perfectly good food. Well, to us, perfectly good food. Not to that. I did bring a little bit of stuff. This was a flute I bought in Addis Ababa, and it's got, okay, so like we normally would think of a flute like this, and you blow, there's just holes on the ends. Like, I can't get a sound out of this, right? The guy that sold it to me could. He just like blew really hard across. So like even a flute in other places can look very different and act very different, and you have to learn specialized things there. Also, and this was just cool, it was just something to, I'm not sure if it's actually a prayer rug or if it was something that you could really just hang on the wall, but this is the Lion of Judah. because there is a history of Ethiopians and having connections with the Jews. The Queen of Sheba was probably from Ethiopia, and so they've had Christians in that part of the country for a very long time, or I'm sorry, Jews in that part of the country for a very long time, and now it's a mix of other places. But the next experience I had a couple years later. The other thing I wanted to talk about was on that trip we were in Kenya. We started in Kenya, and one of the places we went with World Vision was a little part of Nairobi called the Mathare Valley, and it's a 1 mile square bit of land with this river that goes kind of through it. Take a guess how many people live in that 1 million square. By the way, Kent's what, about 22 square miles? There's, when everybody's here, students, adults, what, maybe 55,000 people. Guess how many people were in that square mile? Nearly a million. Yeah, nearly a million. And so extreme poverty. Like I'd never, even in Mexico when I'd been there, we saw some poverty compared to what we had here. I've never seen anything like that. And so World Vision and others are in there, they're in there trying to do community development and help people start jobs and sell something and get something to eat. And the people were unbelievably friendly and pleasant and welcoming and all these kind of things. And then no electricity, no running water anywhere, in that area. And it began to help me understand what privilege I have that I would not have known had I never, like you see it on the news. It's not the same as walking by the house, right? And seeing the kids and those kind of things. So a couple years later, went on another trip with World Vision, and the three places we went there were Bangladesh, Thailand, and Korea. And at the time, Korea was and still is essentially a first world country. So that was kind of historical for us. That was the first place that World Vision had a project. But the experiences in Bangladesh and Thailand were a little different. In the fascinating thing that was, and also somewhat disturbing in a way, was we started out in Thailand, and it's Bangkok's a very modern city, but there is a lot more poverty and other things around, a lot more densely populated than we're used to. And so one of our first days when we were out visiting President, we went out right onto the bay, and they built right out over the water. And so like you're walking along on these wooden places and looking around in little narrow places, and you look in, you see a house, and it's like 2 bedrooms, and you look in, you look down, and you realize underneath the floor is water because you're over the bay, right? And so like we went to the one place, and they welcomed us, gave us a little tea, and there was a TV sitting there, and we kind of commented on the way out, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a middle class family. They've got good jobs. They're not worried about their money. They're doing fine, really." And we would have considered it a slum, okay, like someone in poverty. So then we went and visited another place near Bangkok and saw even more poverty. And the next place we went was actually out to the dump of Bangkok. And we got near, and you could see these shanties up on top of this enormous mound of trash. And you realize there's people up there living there and gathering stuff, essentially recycling, right? That was how they made a living. And the thing that fascinated me was these people would have looked with unbelievable envy at the people in Bangkok living on the water with a TV, right? That would have been like way up the social and economic ladder for them. And so we asked the World Vision folks who were with it, it's like, well, what are you doing with folks here? And they're like, community development. I'm like, but they live on a dump. Yeah, but that's their community. You begin to get a different sense of um, what's out there in the world. And it seems to me the poverty we have in this country is kind of comfortable lower class in a lot of other companies economically. We've got a pretty good safety net. And so if you're ever a little unhappy, even earlier, Todd Kamenesh said something, someone asked him how's it going. He said, well, I got some problems, but first world problems. We've all got a bunch of first world problems, you know, and sometimes it doesn't mean they're not problems, but um, it's one of the reasons I'm glad to be a part of Rotary, because we do things like the water projects, and we have some sense of what's going on in the world beyond our own. And I think that's a really, really good thing. And I just encourage everyone to, when you have a chance, to dig into that a bit and just go somewhere really different. Doesn't have to be a place with extreme poverty or something. When my kid Jack and his wife were in Romania, we visited there, and it's really different. It's very Western. It's really different than here, and we learned things. So hey, that's my little piece. But Asad Khan is going to come up now, and Asad was born in Pakistan, lived there. He's lived in Libya and the UK, and he's traveled. I think he said over 50 countries. Is that right? I'm lame. I've only been in like 27. So Asad, come on up and give us a little bit.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul. I've got 432 slides, so hopefully you guys decide the afternoon. No, they're just pictures. I wanted to start off with, there are two sections to see if you can guess where it is, and then it's a rhetorical question. I'll give you the answer. So Adam's going to help us with the slides. There we go. So this is the first one is, that's actually, Paul just mentioned, that's a lake in Libya, and this is in the capital of Libya, where is Todd? Todd, you should put it in your quiz. Someone can say what the capital is for Libya. Okay, and that is my mom, and the handsome young man in the yellow shirt is actually me. Yes, I did have hair. That was just a few years ago. Okay. This is yes, Tripoli it is. Who's saying, oh, Bill, second question you passed. You have been doing your study. Okay, this picture is in the very north part of Pakistan, and this is, believe it or not, in the summer. It was freezing cold, even in the summer. Sorry for the old picture. Again, the handsome young man on the right side is me again. Okay. This one goes even further north in Pakistan, and it's a small skiing town, and we did tons and tons of skiing up there, and I don't have to tell you who the handsome young man is in the picture here. Okay. This now you come a little bit further south in Pakistan, and starting where the plains are. So this is one of the lakes in one of the cities where I lived. Islamabad, it's the capital. And go ahead. Yep. This is, we're gonna switch and go to the other side of the planet. This is right by where the Olympics are taking place. This is in Tiananmen Square in the middle of Beijing. Was in the winter, and I am looking comfortable there, but it was extremely cold. I don't know if I've ever felt more cold, because we were doing a lot of walking around and things like that, but simply gorgeous to be there and see that. So that was many years ago. I think the skies are not nearly as blue anymore, unfortunately. I think it's more a matter if you're walking around. So I suspect it was probably 20 degrees, but if you're out there walking for an hour and a half in that temperature, that's what it was. This is, I think maybe it was an hour north of Beijing to go see this, and we're talking about some wall or something, and I know it's just like, what is the big deal? But it turns out it was a really big deal. It's super cool. There's no way to describe it. So go ahead, Adam. Afterwards, in the evening, we were walking around the streets, and if you can see carefully, this is street food. In the front are some kind of, these are all like fried. There's cicadas in the front. Unfortunately, you can't see. Way in the back are little tiny seahorse type things. And between the cicadas and the seahorses, believe it or not, are fried scorpions. And I was full that day. That day, I didn't have anything else for dinner but this stuff. I'm just kidding. I did not touch this stuff. Okay. That again, the handsome young man on the right, but also combined with his beautiful wife, is in the capital of Pakistan, Islamabad. In the back is you can see is one of the famous mosques, and it's become the city's sort of skyline key feature. We're up in the mountains, so the mountains start at that city, and these are just hills, and eventually gets into the Himalayas. Okay, this one is a really cool one. This is now we're going a little bit further out east. This is in Tokyo, but it's simply a bar in Tokyo. But some of you may recognize it's probably a little bit difficult. This is the same bar that they filmed the big fight scene in Kill Bill. So if any Kill Bill fans, it was really kind of cool to be there and dine. Yeah, I'm gonna go with you. Probably skip that one. Yeah, forward. Good. This is my oldest son feeding a pigeon right from his hand in the middle of Barcelona. Believe it or not. So that was kind of fun. And Adam's gonna have to run back for the next slide. We'll just see that the pigeons were literally everywhere. You couldn't, you just had to be still for a moment, and they were coming. Okay, these next set of pictures are really cool. An exquisite, unbelievable restaurant in sort of a patio. We ate outside. The food was amazing. Next picture, Adam. This is some of the picture of the food. This was sort of like a guacamole bar sort of a thing right by the table. Go ahead. The next one is they were getting some lime and stuff for salt, but it turns out, those of you that know, the salt is not actually salt. What it is crushed, roasted grasshoppers. And believe it or not, apparently they're just naturally salty. And the more exquisite you get, the crushing is not complete, so you start seeing little pieces and parts. So, and this was the most amazing steak I had later that evening. It was on a big heated salt block, and then they put mezcal on it and lit that to just sear it a little bit, and then it cooked on the salt block as we were sitting there just eating. All of this was in Mexico City. Okay. This is my wife and I. We were in Germany, in the south. This is very close to Garmisch-Partenkirchen, which was also a site of a Winter Olympics. Todd, you can put that as another quiz question for next month. We are at the top of, I think the mountain is called Zugspitze, which is right on the border of Germany and Austria. In fact, the camera is in Germany. We're in Germany, but what you can see is actually Austria. There's a Sound of Music sort of analogy in there somewhere, I'm sure. Bangles, like glass and stuff like that, are really big in Pakistan, and this is one of the many, many thousands of shops with millions of these in all different colors. So it's really picturesque to see women wear these bangles. They're just simply glass, but they make a really cool sound. Okay, we are back in Tokyo. I took all of 12 minutes to put these together, so we're going back and forth all over the world. This bar is on the top of a tall building, And my colleague Nithya, you guys saw her, she came here as a speaker as well. She's holding her phone where she pulled up the picture from the movie Lost in Translation with Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson. They are sitting at the same bar in the same location where we were sitting, so we decided to take a picture. So that was really cool to see. Bill, I'm sure you saw that movie. Okay, good. Okay, who's gonna guess, two guesses where this is? Close. That's almost not fair. This, not very close. That's one down for Bill. That was 2 plus and 1 minus. That's a little hut way in the mountains. We had a long hike to get up there. I want to say at least an hour. No road. In the I forget the name of the mountain range in just north of Nice in France, and there's a guy there that has a bunch of goats, and in the hut is just simply he's just fermenting cheese. So you have to hike up there if you want that cheese. And then we went in there, and I like cheese, but more of the kind you can get here in Acme and Giant Eagle. This stuff was stinky, but it's the real thing, I think. And the goats were right around us, and believe it or not, there were just people there going in there just to buy cheese from him. Okay, any guesses where this is? This will be tough. Whoa, Mark wins the prize, really close. This is up, way up north in the Highlands in Scotland, in a small town called Tomintoul, so which was very cool. And I'm super impressed, Mark. I have no idea what's going on there. Yeah, you got to get out more. Okay, we'll just spend a couple more minutes. So in some of these travels, I had somehow gotten into this habit of taking pictures of unusual signs. And so we're going to go through some of them. I think they're kind of fun. They're kind of funny and light. So let's see, and they're from, if I can remember where they're all from. So let's see, and some of these will be hard to read. This is clearly a urinal. It says, of course, Chinese, and at the bottom it said, one more step closer to civilization. They want you to get closer to the urinal. Somehow I think in Chinese it works out better. Okay. Oh, this was in Korea at the airport. The picture of the guy that cleans. This staff is in charge of the cleaning. That's his cell phone number. If you have a problem, don't go to management. Go straight to the guy that cleaned. It's a little direct. I think if my phone was up there, I'd be doing a good job cleaning too. Okay. This one you can't read. It's also in China on the back of the car, that yellow bumper sticker. The English part says, danger, lady driver. Okay. This one, I honestly don't know where that was. It was the entrance of a restaurant, and we left very quickly, as you can imagine. We did not wait. Okay. This was my hotel room in Japan at the end of a long flight, long trip. Get in there and do my business, and then I wanted to flush. And trust me, there was no flush button. This was it, all in Japanese. Have at it. And I was like, which one do I press? And you can later, if you want this picture to study in detail, let me know. And maybe some of us can read a little bit of Japanese and help us out. Okay, this was, I'm pretty sure, in Korea, some kind of yield sign, but I thought it said you always yield to IT. That's what it looked like. Adam's going to want to take this picture, I think. Okay, this one is a good one. Again, one of those urinal tanks. This is what I have always wanted to talk to you. Urinating into the pool. You are the best. Believe it or not, this is, and complete with the little icon there going, and I'm not sure who's urinating into that pool. Okay. We like to keep our dogs on the leash. Over there, they want you to keep off the dog. And either way works, I think. Oh, this was a town just north of Barcelona up the coast, where apparently it's been in the news. They have oversized roosters going after people and their kids, and so that was a really big warning. No idea what that means. Of course, we won't talk about the headless men. Let's not worry about that. Yeah, yeah. If you don't, this one is obviously the fire alarm, where it says fire alarm always, which always this was a really good sign. Some of the fire alarms are not fire alarms some of the time. Okay. This was in China in a mall, one of those shops that was closed and under construction. Of course, they're coming soon, but if you read above that, it says, "We are gone." You can't make this stuff up. Of course, at the train station, they said, "Have at it. The Wi-Fi password is right there," which was like, okay, thanks. That's not going to work. Before we think the rest of the world is silly, this one and all the Kent State people, my apologies, is at the Kent State Rec Center. Of course, it's very simple that the spa is limited to 16 people at one time, pre-COVID. But at the bottom it says all individuals must be 16 years of age to enter, not older. Everyone has to be 16. So clearly hardly anyone was there. I think since then they've changed the sign. I'm gonna leave this one uncaptioned. There's just no romping. And if you're ever looking for steamed Chinese, this is the place to be. This was a buffet at a hotel in China. So still, I was very uncomfortable with eating steamed Chinese. Okay, I think Kurt and Paul, your bikes would be okay on this bridge. Even though it says maximum 13 tons. Cyclists are okay, so you guys can definitely go in there. This was in Vancouver. Okay, that's the end, and if there's more someday, we'll get a chance and we can do some more. Thanks.
Paul, did you plan a responder? Kurt. All right. Okay.
I've been studying engineers for weeks for this, and now all my knowledge is gone. But so this response is going to be as random as that program was, and I don't mean that in a bad way. That was a really fun program. First, I hope Paul's wife speaks next week, because if she does, then we have the whole family to come. Right? We had your son last week, who did an amazing job. Yourself. I think we'll start off with Paul. I think his explanation of becoming involved in international travel and humanitarian efforts through church is really probably rings home with a lot of us. A lot of us probably had an opportunity to go abroad, either through college or through church, and I think that was really interesting to hear about how your experience started. World Vision is something we probably all should look into. I had never heard about it till today, so that's really interesting. So thank you for sharing those experiences with us. I think from what I take home from your talk and also Asad's is that travel builds these amazing experiences and really broadens our opinion, our perspective about things. I've had an opportunity to go to about 11 different countries, and each one of those is very different. So it allows us to see the people that live there and their experiences and what is their normalcy, and it's not ours, right? So Paul said that this is just because we live in the United States and Kent, Ohio, this is not normal for a lot of people. So in particular, I was in Albania for a while, right after the genocide there with the conflict, and I landed at the port and I got into a bus and we were going down the road, and there was literally tanks sitting along the side of the road that were blown up that had been part of the conflict. And I mean, there's nothing you see on TV that makes you have that experience. That's something you need to experience in person, and when you do, it really changes your life. So excellent point there. I think my take home from Asad's is that Asad has a really strange love affair with urinals and toilets. So that's my take-home message there. Asad likes poop and pee motifs. So thanks, Asad. That was great, and some of your pictures were awesome. So thank you both for sharing your experience with us, and I hope we all have a chance to go abroad or have encourage grandchildren and children to go abroad, because it really does change our lives. So thank you so much, guys, for the talks today.
All right, so we will close with the four-way test. So we're all going to have to do this from memory because evidently our sign has taken wing. But I think we all know it. So of the things that we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it bring goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. We'll see you next week. We have an